So, hello everyone. I'm Ritesh Devadiga from Onsurity, your today's host for Wellness Wednesday. We all know wellness isn't just about hitting the gym or eating well. It's about balancing across 7 pillars, which are physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, social, environmental, and occupational health. But tracking and improvising them, that's where AI steps in. Today, we'll explore all topics which can help you improvise and build it with AI. So today's topic is Wellness 2.2, Rethinking Wellness with AI. We are joined with Shivani Narang, a corporate wellness expert with over 14 years of experience across industries. She has worked with organizations like Unilever, Great Place to Work, Cultfit, and Cultfit to help teams lower stress, build trust, and navigate changes with confidence. Also, this is an interactive session. Please share your questions in the chat. We'll cover them during the Q&A. Over to you, Shivani.
Thanks, Ritesh, and a very warm welcome to everyone. So I believe AI is the rage these days, but I think one part that we haven't really been focusing so much on is how can we leverage AI for our own wellness and to up our wellness game. So that's what we're going to cover today. So I will dive right into it and I'll not make you wait. I hope that everyone can see my screen. That's what we are going to be covering today, Wellness 2.0, where we think about how we can track, maintain, and improve our wellness with the help of AI. All right, so just a quick stop at what we are going to be covering today. We're going to look at how we define wellness. We're going to be talking about the 7 pillars of wellness that we will be diving into. We'll talk about the important metrics that we will track in each of these pillars. What are the things that you should be looking at? And then we are going to talk about how we can use and leverage AI to enable us to track, monitor, and improve on these metrics. We will talk about how AI also helps in early detection and sometimes even condition management, for that matter, even prevention at times. And we'll talk about some case studies for that as well. We'll talk about, like I said, some real life examples of how AI has actually helped save people's lives, literally save people's lives. And then we will do a quick assessment to check our own personal wellness score. So let's dive right into it. So these are the 7 pillars of wellness: sleep, nutrition, exercise, mental health, emotional health, your social connections, the quality of your social connections rather, not just a number. No, we're not talking about Facebook and Instagram friends and Instagram followers. No, real life connections, and mindfulness. Take a slightly deeper look into why these are important and how these are integrated. So when we talk about restorative sleep, it's not just something that allows us to rest and recoup. It's also something that allows us to regulate our emotions. It is something that actually helps form and solidify our memory. And this is the time where basically the brain does the cleaning. It consolidates our memory and also takes a decision about what to get rid of. So storing what to store in RAM, in your RAM, and what to store in your ROM. All of that happens when you get a good night's sleep. Food, we talked about nutrition. Of course, it affects your physical activity, but it's also something that helps you maintain emotional balance, stabilizes your moods, and also affects how your brain functions. Third, physical activity. Again, it's not just about the muscles that you build and what amount of weights you can lift, but it's also something that affects our emotional resilience, our ability to regulate our stress, and also how clearly we're able to think and our decision making in turn. Mental wellness. Again, it's something that actually helps us take the right decisions. It improves and helps in better decision making and also helps us regulate our emotions. Emotional wellness. Again, not just something that helps us sleep better at night, but also something that helps us manage our stress, manage our emotions, and in turn, we are rewarded with sweeter relationships when we're able to maintain our emotional wellness. Social connections. This is something which nurtures our sense of belonging. It's something that helps motivate us to take care of ourselves, in turn affecting all the other pillars as well, and nurture our emotional wellness. Mindfulness, the last one. This is something that anchors us to the present moment. It improves our cognitive control. It improves our emotional stability, and it always helps us take better decisions. It reduces the reactivity that we have, and it helps us take better decisions in life again. So this was just to show you how everything is so interconnected, and we cannot skip one and just draw a straight line saying, oh, physical health, just about my muscles. No, it's not that. It's not that simple. All right. The different forms in which we can actually leverage AI. It in turn, in terms of smart mirrors that actually look at your body, your exercise, your movement, give you guided workouts. It's, of course, we've all, I think, by now used virtual coaches and AI chatbots. Mobile apps is something we've been using for a while. They've just gotten smarter. We have wearables, again, something we've been using for a while to track our sleep, our movement, our calorie intake, our heart rate variation, a lot of those parameters. There are also headbands and EEG devices that actually measure our brainwave activity as well, help us track our mood, our emotional wellness, and our mental wellness as well. And of course, there are also voice assistants and smart speakers. These are some of the ways in which it's become easier for us to adopt and use AI. It's become more intuitive for us to use it in different forms. Of course, there are other forms as well, but these are just some of the ones that we're going to be discussing today. All right, moving on to everything that AI can help us do in this, in our wellness, not just prevent and detect early. It can also help us manage our condition and also in terms of recovery. So when we talk about prevention and early detection, it's something that could detect sleep deficits, where prolonged sleep deficits could increase the risk of poor cardiovascular health. That is something where we can use it for prevention and early detection. Stress detection, again, something that can give us indicators that our stress levels are rising and that we need to do something to manage our stress levels. Again, mental health risk and predictions, even for someone who is probably slipping into depression, these apps and AI can actually help us predict and look at those signs and let us know in advance so that we can take corrective measures. In terms of condition management, and of course, it's not just limited to the ones that we're talking about here. These are just some examples of how AI can actually help us in all of these three stages of wellness. In terms of condition management, of course, a lot of us have heard about patches. We've heard about trackers to measure and manage our diabetes, our glucose, our heart rate. These are also used for behavioral nudges, where they will actually give you personalized recommendations of what you should do to manage your existing condition. It could just even simply be go for a walk for 15 minutes, even a behavioral nudge like that, or drink more water, or maybe just journal for a little while to maintain your mental health, right? It's also about medication adherence, where it gives you the nudges to make sure you stay on track with your medication, gives you emotional support, and also recommends guided meditations for you based on how you're feeling at that point of time. Recovery, there are apps that actually are specifically designed to help people recover from a stroke. Glucose monitors, of course, we've all heard of these, and probably a lot of us have also used these, and also heart rate variability. Again, that's something that we're going to be covering in one of the slides going forward. So moving on to the first one, the first pillar that we spoke about is sleep. And what are the metrics that we should be tracking for sleep? The first one is your sleep duration. Your sleep duration is basically the time, the number of hours, or the total time that you spend staying asleep in a sleep session. And the ideal is about 7 to 9 hours for adults. And this is something, why this matters is because it makes sure that your brain gets enough time for rest, recovery, memory consolidation, immune function. And in fact, just the way the body has toxins to kind of clear from the body, even the brain has toxins that it needs to clear. And there are studies that actually have shown that these functions, these jet sprays that actually come on, which do the cleaning part of the brain, actually start after 7 hours of good sleep. So make sure you get more than 7, because if you don't, these toxins build up in the brain and have been seen to cause conditions like dementia and Alzheimer's. So that's why sleep duration and more than 7 hours is really, really important. The next one that we talk about is REM cycle, which is the period of your rapid eye movement sleep associated with your dreaming and the brain activity. Again, important for your cognitive processes like learning, creativity, even regulating your emotions. And there are AI tools that actually track this through variables, through wearables, with your heart rate and also with the movement, the number of times you move in bed. The third is wake time. So this is the total time you spend awake during the night, including the interruptions. And usually a score of above 85% is what is considered good. Without having to stress on this, if your sleep is frequently disrupted, then it reduces the restorative benefits that your sleep has, that you get in your deep and REM sleep. The fourth one is snoring. Might seem funny, but the audible breathing sound during sleep is often caused when there is obstruction in the airway. And poor sleep quality can also be an indicator of underlying issues like sleep apnea, which can impact your overall health and alertness. In fact, there was recently an article which talked about how poor sleep quality and sleep apnea was causing nerve damage to a patient in the eye, leading to glaucoma and partial blindness. So make sure you watch out for that snoring as well. And the last one is heart rate variability. Now, this is a variation in time between your heartbeats, which is measured during sleep. And why is this important? Because this is something, a high heart rate variability means that you are able to recover well. There is resilience to stress, and your overall cardiovascular health and nervous system health is in good shape. So this, some of the wearables, apps, devices that you can use are an Aura ring. This is a smart ring that actually tracks your sleep. It tracks your readiness to go off to sleep. It tracks your activity while you're sleeping, and also recovery biometrics like your heart rate, body temperature, and oxygen saturation. Sleep cycle is one that I've personally really enjoyed using. It helps you analyze your sleep patterns. And it also, if you allow, so there are two functions: either you set an alarm for, say, 7 in the morning every day, or you set an alarm and allow the app to wake you up during like a 30 or 40-minute window. And the app decides when you're at the time where you're where you will most easily wake up and you will not be jolted out of your dreams and the alternate world that you're living in. So that's something that sleep cycle does very well, and it tracks your REM sleep and deep sleep and helps you sleep at a good time so that you can catch a wave early and also wake up at a time where you're going towards wakefulness. Whoop is also the third one that I brought in here, which is something that tracks your strain recovery. It tracks the sleep to optimize your performance with a focus on HRV, which is heart rate variability, and also your sleep readiness. So that's how we can focus on our sleep, the first important metric. Let's move on to the second one, which is nutrition. So the very first one for nutrition is the macronutrient intake, which means the intake of and the balance of the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates that you consume in your diet. And why is this important? It is because these ratios, the macronutrient ratios, are what will actually define and support your energy levels, your muscle building, your muscle repair, your brain function, even the lubrication of your joints. So really important to actually track that. As with hydration, again, we underestimate the importance of hydration, but that's the amount of water that your body retains and utilizes to maintain a fluid balance. Again, this is something that aids digestion. It helps absorption of nutrients in the body, temperature regulation of your body, and also physical and cognitive performances. Even the brain needs you to have enough water. So remember and keep hydrating yourself. All right. The third one is calorie tracking. I think some people just get obsessed. Some of us just get obsessed with tracking our calories. I don't need to explain too much about this. But this is, of course, calculating the number of calories you've consumed versus the ones that you've spent. Again, helps in our weight, the magic thing that everybody is concerned about, our energy balance, and also our metabolic efficiency. The fourth one, again, glucose. Quite a few of us actually also measure our glucose levels, the sugar levels in our bloodstream. If you're able to maintain stable glucose levels, that avoids the energy crashes that we get. It helps us reduce inflammation in the body, which is the source of all ailments, even in the brain, and also, of course, issues like diabetes. And the fifth one that I think is really important is gut microbiome. This is the ecosystem of microorganisms that live in your digestive tract. And why this is important is for digestion, for immunity, for nutrient absorption, even for your mood. So keep that digestive tract happy and you will do well in your wellness course later on. All right. The apps that I have and the devices that I have brought in here are Zoe. Zoe is something that gives you personalized analysis and food recommendations based on your unique biology. And it does a microbiome analysis and a real-time metabolic data is what it uses to actually give you those recommendations. Lumen is something which is a handheld device, which is a metabolic tracker that actually uses your breath to measure fat versus carb burn, and again offers personalized guidance based on your body's needs. The third one is Snap Calorie. I'm guessing some of you might have already used this. This is the AI-driven app that actually lets you take a picture of your meal, and it instantly tells you the number of calories, macros and macronutrients that it has. So this is what we can actually track, and the apps we can use, or the devices we can use to track and build on our second pillar of nutrition. Let's move on to the third one, which is exercise. All right. I think everybody's favorite. That's one thing everybody loves to do, right? Going to the gym, building muscles. All right. Let's look at the metrics that we should be tracking. The very first one being the number of steps or the activity that you, in minutes, that you actually spend every week. Again, WHO actually recommends 150 minutes of moderate exercise every week. This is, you could be walking, you could be doing cardio, or mixing it up. Mixing it up is actually better. That's what WHO actually says. It's important to track that because, again, it gives you a baseline of your cardiovascular health. Of course, burns calories. That's what most of us do it for. And of course, it helps you reduce the ill effects of the sedentary lifestyle that we all have, sitting in front of screens, looking at our phones all the time. So it kind of helps you break that as well. Heart rate. This is the number of times that your heart actually beats per minute, both at rest and during exercise. Again, a great indicator of your cardiovascular fitness, the exercise intensity, and also recovery, how soon and how well you can recover. The third one in this is VO2 max. This is the maximum amount of oxygen that your body can utilize during intense physical activities. Either you've been running for a long time, you've been doing HIIT. So the amount of oxygen that your body can utilize during those intense sessions is something that is VO2 max. And there are tools like Whoop, Garmin that actually estimate this from the activity pattern that you have. And why this is important is because a high VO2 max actually reflects a strong aerobic endurance and overall physical condition that you have. And the fourth one that we have here is recovery time. This is the time that your body needs to recover and return to baseline after physical exertion, which means that if you've probably gone for a sprint for 30 minutes, which you're not used to doing, and you've strained yourself, it helps you identify how much time you need to actually recover from that intense workout. And why this is important is because if you don't track that, you might go for a run or a sprint again, you might injure yourself, and because of that injury, you might be out of action for the next couple of days. So it helps you prevent overtraining, reduce injury, and also it helps you optimize your workout effectiveness. And what are the tools that we can use to actually help us build on this pillar? The first one, so I brought three. There's Tonal, there's Whoop that we've seen before, and there's Peloton. Now, Tonal is something which is a smart home gym with AI-based feedback. It counts the number of reps. It tracks the strength and progress that you're making in these. And it also adjusts the weights. So it also has weights attached to the body and adjusts the weights also based on your recovery. Whoop, again, is something that detects and gives you personalized training recommendations. And Peloton is something that, again, gives you personalized wellness workout goals based on your requirement, the goals that you set, and your performance history. And the other thing that that's really interesting about this is that this has data of thousands of people, and it helps you compare your performance to others to kind of get a different baseline as well, not just yours, but a general baseline as well. So this is why I've picked these three that I think are really interesting to kind of build on this pillar of ours. All right, moving on to the fourth one, our mental health. And the very first that I have is our stress levels. Again, stress levels, very important to kind of track, but also slightly difficult. Not very difficult, slightly difficult. Some of the apps actually use self-reporting to kind of track your stress levels. There are also apps that use heart rate variability or even your voice tone, changes in your voice tone, to detect, in a very passive way, sensing your facial expressions. There are also apps that track your facial expressions, your typing speed, to understand and track your stress levels. The second one is focus duration. This is basically about how long you can stay on a task without any distraction. So there are apps like Rescue Time, Flow Time that actually help you monitor this. The third is cognitive load, which refers to the mental effort that's used in actually processing information. And if you have a high load, that could actually lead to burnout. And that's the fourth one that we have here, burnout risk. Again, that is something that is calculated via surveys or AI-driven behavioral pattern analysis also. I've also created a burnout assessment, a 14-question burnout assessment. I will share the link with you later. So if you want to check yourself on where you stand on the spectrum of burnout, you can take the assessment as well and understand where you are and what is that you can do. All right. The three services or apps or devices that I've picked out for these are the New Ripple headsets, the Aura Ring, and Muse headbands. And what these do is, these are EEG-based devices, which are headsets that use AI to analyze your brainwave activity, and they detect stress patterns with that. They track the brain signals to measure real-time attention and the mental engagement that you have. These are some of the apps that you can use. Again, these are bands, wearables like headbands. There are bands on the forehead that you can use to actually track your mental health levels. All right, we've built on 4 pillars. Let's move on to the 5th one, which is our emotional health. All right, so the very first one that we're going to be looking at is mood variation. The reason why, so to talk about mood variation, it's basically a fluctuation in your emotional states either through the day or through the week. Why this is important to track is because, one, it helps you identify triggers you might have. Only when you are able to identify triggers and build that awareness can you actually take the steps to do something to manage those triggers. So it helps support better mental health decisions as well. The second is emotional exhaustion. Again, this is a feeling where this is when you feel emotionally drained, emotionally exhausted due to either there's been mental load that we talked about, cognitive overload. There's probably a cognitive overload that you've been overwhelmed for too long, or there's a prolonged stress or a stressor that's present in your life. So that's something that causes emotional exhaustion. And again, the reason it's important to track this is because this is something that can either give us nudges and tell us when we need to take a break to recover and improve our resilience. It can help us identify the emotional regulation strategies. And 3, this is something that if we are able to catch early on, we can prevent burnout. So really important to actually track your emotional exhaustion as well. The third one is emotional reactivity. This is the intensity and the speed of your emotional responses to a situation, which means that if you snap at someone instantly, that is emotional reactivity. Again, why is it important to understand and track this? Is because usually we end up creating a deep hole for ourselves when we react instantly to something, because instant reactions are mostly bad. We do it without really thinking too much, and it has a negative impact on us. But the reason it's important to actually measure emotional reactivity is so that we can develop our coping skills, and it does not blow up in our faces. It does not affect our relationships. And it also helps us manage our stress and reduce the reactivity, because the more time, the more gap there is between a trigger and your reaction, you basically move from reaction to response. You have more time to think and respond in a more prudent way. That's the reason it's important to track your emotional reactivity. And the fourth one, I really like this one, inner critic. This is the voice inside your head that is always judging you, doubting you, that's always criticizing you, makes you feel there's this constant statement, I'm not good enough. That voice is the inner critic. And why is it important to actually become aware of this? Is because a lot of times you will shortchange yourself and not do things or not reach out for things that you deserve because of that inner voice, because that inner voice is actually keeping you from it. And the higher, the louder the inner voice and the inner critic, the lower the self-esteem, the lower the motivation, and the lower the emotional well-being. So it's important to track this so that you know how. First is knowing that this is happening. Second is knowing how to turn the volume down. You don't kill the inner critic. No, that's not what we do. We turn the volume down and we kind of become friends with the inner critic, but that is something that takes a little more time and effort and is not so easy, but doable nonetheless. The 3 services that I brought here are, one is Visa, which actually detects your mood swings, the duration of the mood swings, and also the frequency via chatbots that actually nudge you to journal. And through journal, they also track your patterns and then suggest the recommended action for you. Ellipsis Health is something that does a voice tone analysis that helps you detect emotional reactivity. And again, there are wearables like Weltery, Fitbit, Aura that actually track your emotional fatigue with your heart rate variability, your sleep, your recovery metrics. So these are the 3 that I think are really interesting in building our fifth parameter of emotional health. Moving on to the 6th one, our social connections. So the first one here is frequency of quality interactions. All right, I'm just checking if I've covered. Yes, I've covered all of these. All right. So yes, the first one is the frequency and the quality of our interactions. Again, what does this mean? This means how often and how meaningfully you engage with others. And this could be friends, family, colleague. Reason for this and why we're talking about frequency and quality of interactions defines the quality of relationships that we have. And if you know, there's a Harvard study, a 75-year-long study, which actually the gist of that study is it's not the amount of money that you make that defines your happiness, it's the quality of the relationships that you have. So that's the reason it's important to track the frequency and the quality of your interactions, because positive social contact actually strengthens your emotional resilience and also reduces stress and isolation. And I don't know if you've heard or not, but isolation, like they say, isolation literally kills. And emotional, if you have social connections, they act like a buffer. They increase your wellness as well in terms of both your physical and mental and emotional wellness. So that's why it's really, really important to have good quality interactions. The second one is screen time. The evil thing all of us are fighting with all the time, right? That's the total amount that we spend on our digital devices every day. I hope nobody's tracking mine, because I've spent so many hours building this presentation. All right, and especially on social apps. So why it's important to track this is because the more time we're actually spending on our screens is the time that we are not spending in-person interactions, which is something that can contribute to loneliness and also attention fatigue. The third one here is loneliness indicators. Again, these are behavioral signs, even emotional signs at times, that suggest the feelings of isolation or lack of connection. So it could be withdrawal from social settings, it could be going quieter, avoiding meeting people, and these are parameters, these are things that actually negatively impact our mental health, our immune function, and like we talked about, even our longevity. And the fourth one that we have is sentiment analysis, which is where AI-powered tools actually analyze your tone, your language, even your messages to detect emotional states. Of course, only when you've given them permission to read your messages. And again, why is this that matters? Why does this matter? Because this gives the apps an insight into your social and emotional well-being, and they help detect early signs of distress. So if if this is probably causing you distress, these apps actually help you, give you nudges at the right time to make sure you're able to prevent from slipping on that slope. And for this, I've got only one, which I hope none of us have to use. This is actually something which is an AI companion robot. It's called LEQ. It's usually used for older adults who are probably living alone to promote social interactions and reduce loneliness. I did not want to bring any app for social connections here for any of us. I hope none of us are using anything for social connections, because the gist of this is go out, meet people, spend time with friends, spend time with family, spend time in in-person interactions and not on apps. All right, moving on to our last pillar, which is mindfulness. Again, let's look at the 4 parameters that we should be tracking when it comes to mindfulness. The first is the meditation minutes, which is the number of minutes or the total time that you spend in formal mindfulness practice or meditation practice. And there are apps like Calm and Headspace that actually help you track this. The reason why it's important to track it is because these help you stay focused without distraction. And they also, actually focus is just the first level benefit that you get from mindfulness and meditation. There are so many deeper benefits that you get when you start paying attention. And I could probably do a 1-hour webinar just on that. So I'm not going to delve too much into this because we have more ground to cover. But the ability to stay focused without its distraction, the ability to stay in the present moment without mind wandering. So in brief, I can just say the mind wandering, where your mind is constantly either in the past or the future. It's usually time that you are spending worrying about things, either ruminating about what has already happened or worrying about what's going to happen. So This is something that increases the unhappiness quotient in our life, which is why when we practice mindfulness, we start being in the present. And I can just probably give you an example of that. The fact that you're here in this webinar, the fact that Ritesh and I are also here, we might be worried about what we're doing tomorrow. And oh my God, what did we do day before yesterday or yesterday? But the fact that we are here right now, I can safely assume that all of us are doing just fine, at least right now, right? That's what mindfulness actually does. It helps you come back to the present moment and lets you understand that you're okay as of now, right? All right. The second one that we talk about is the attention span. Again, this is the ability to stay focused without distraction. And this is tracked in terms of periods of deep and uninterrupted concentration. And why this is important is because this is something that helps us improve our focus, improves our learning, improves our performance, and also helps us manage our anxiety and overwhelm. The third one, focus time. Focus time is something that actually helps us bring our attention rather. It is the effort that it takes for us to bring our attention to a specific task. And when we are able to do this, we are able to, and let me tell you this, there's a study that actually talks about how every interruption that we get costs us nearly 23 minutes when we come back to. So probably you're doing something, you get a message, you do something else. And when you come back, on an average, it takes about 23 minutes for us to refocus on that task. So every time there's a distraction, it actually is costing you time. So that's the reason why it's important to track your focus and your attention span. And the last one is your breath pattern and the heart rate variability, which is monitoring of your breathing rhythms and your heart rate variability, both of these are actually linked to your nervous system balance, how well your body is able to regulate the nervous system is what is actually defined and also tracked by these. Now, what happens if when we track this? If there are irregular patterns, they might signal stress. And when you breathe, when you practice deep breathing, calm breathing and higher heart rate variability actually reflect relaxation and resilience, which means that even if there's a stressor, your body has the ability to meet that by variating the heart rate and self-regulating itself and bringing it back to the equilibrium, the basis. So that is something that helps us identify not just our stress, and also it helps us identify whether our body has the ability to regulate itself and calm itself down. The thing that we call resilience. This actually measures whether our body has resilience or not. All right. And the apps or the devices that actually help us track that are, like we mentioned, Headspace, Calm. These are apps that actually have AI-guided meditations that actually give you personalized recommendations based on, so when you go into these apps, they usually ask you, they have screens where they'll just ask you, how are you feeling today? They'll do a quick emotional check-in. There will be smileys and you will just do some check-ins. Based on that, they give you recommendations on the kind of meditation that you should probably practice at that time. Even based on your past behavior and the inputs that you've given in the past, they actually give you recommendations in terms of the kind of content that you should probably use. So these use user behavior and your self-reporting and your past trends to actually recommend meditations and mindfulness content to you. Whereas Muse Headband, again, like we said, this is an EEG sensor that provides real-time biofeedback in terms of your brain waves. And from that, it detects patterns, it detects any indicators of stress, and to counter that, it recommends then the kind of content that you should probably explore to help yourself and regulate yourself in that case. All right. With that, We'd also talked about how how there have been instances where people have leveraged AI, and now we've seen AI goes beyond just ChatGPT and talking to ChatGPT and making ChatGPT our therapist. AI goes beyond that. And there have been instances, real life cases where people have used, yes, they have used ChatGPT as well, and also other apps to actually get nudges or get very, very timely inputs to actually help them save, either prevent a condition or an episode, or literally turn out to be like a lifesaver. So one of the case studies here is of Natalia Tarian, who was in her 8th month of pregnancy. So what basically happened in her case was she was just feeling like her jaw was feeling a little tight. She just asked ChatGPT just an innocent question, why does my jaw feel tight? And she was not alarmed by it. She was just curious about why this was happening. And that's what we do, right? We initially used to turn to Google, and now we turn to ChatGPT for all of our medical curiosity as well. And so she wasn't really looking for a medical diagnosis or a consultation. She wasn't really worried about it. And the response that she got from ChatGPT was, check your blood pressure. Simple question. She checked her blood pressure, following the advice, and it was dangerously high. ChatGPT again pushed her and gave her a nudge to, and literally said, call an ambulance now. This is what ChatGPT actually told her. She thankfully actually listened to ChatGPT. She went to the hospital. By then, her blood pressure had soared even higher to a 200 by 146, which is an alarmingly high level. Doctors quickly diagnosed, what had happened. She was in the 8th month, so critical, and they immediately performed an emergency delivery. And later, she was told that the good news, let me, relax everyone, both the mother and baby were saved. But what the doctors told her will probably send us a chill down your spine. The doctors actually told her, if you would have gone to sleep that night, you would not have woken. So that's how ChatGPT and AI actually helped save not just her life, but also that of her baby. And she was eternally grateful to AI for that, for a simple tightness in the jaw that she did not take seriously, but turned out to be life-threatening. And she would not have done anything about it had she not been nudged by AI to do this. Another example, one of the apps that we covered, Weltery. A user noticed a drop in their score 2 days before they actually fell sick. So there was a sudden dip in their wellness score. And even though they felt fine at that time, 2 days later, they started showing clear symptoms of illness. So the early warning that the app actually gave them allowed them to adjust their activities, to rest more, and potentially reduce the severity of the illness that was oncoming. And the way that the app did this was it identified the stress and fatigue indicators, which were severely high for this user. The heart rate variability, the HRV that we spoke about, was lower than usual. And this is something which is a common sign of a viral or even a bacterial infection. 2 days later, symptoms of these infections, such as fever, fatigue, sore throat started appearing. And the user was thankful for Weltery for actually offering early detection, and something that none of the traditional thermometers or apps would have actually done. So these are just 2 use cases of how AI has actually helped in early detection and also in saving lives. All right. Now, what I had promised was that you can take a wellness quiz here, a wellness assessment, to get your personalized score. So I'm going to paste the link of an assessment that you can take. And this is not just, just 4 options. never, sometimes rarely, very simple options that you can probably just click on and get done with in less than a minute. I will put the link in the chat. You can take the score, you can take the assessment here, and you can identify your score from this. And you can probably, if you want, you can post your score in the chat or in the Q&A, and it will give you a good enough idea about your levels of wellness. And I hope that you were able to, Ritesh, could you just click on that and check if you're able to access the link? Right. Great. So you can take this assessment and you can get a good sense of where you stand in terms of your wellness levels. I'm happy to wait for a minute or two for you to take the assessment and post your scores. Or what we could also do is that I could show you, and you could take a screenshot of this, of what score means what. And you could take the assessment later as well, whatever feels comfortable to you. And I will also be sharing a link of the free guide that you can take to actually, this is something that will just, all the apps and the items that we've discussed, it will give you a snapshot of all of those. So let me just post that as well in the group. Right. Okay, I'm posting the link from where you can also download the free handout that I've created, where you will get a list of all of these apps that we've covered today. And let me just put up the slide where you can actually see what it means what score means what actually. So these are the 4 levels that you will actually be able to see when you actually take the assessment. If your score is under 15, that means you are at a risk and your immunity will be severely compromised and you need to take urgent interventions right away. That is if your score is under 15. If, however, your score is between 15 and 29, then that means that you are kind of taking your health for granted, but you do need to start making a serious investment in your well-being. Again, 30 to 44 means that you are kind of doing well on most of the parameters, but it might not hurt to just strengthen some of the pillars with some routines or rituals. 45 to 56 is definitely means great, you are in good shape. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, take the assessment at your own time and check your results and your scores and understand what it means to get the score that you've got. All right, with that, we come to the end of this. Feel free to take a screenshot of this as well if you need any more assistance. After you take the wellness assessment, you want to reach out, you need more assistance in terms of understanding your scores or what is it you can do, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to help you with that as well. All right, with that, we come to the end of this presentation. I will stop the screen share now and I will get back to, and I'll open the space up and check the chat for any questions that anyone might have. You can post your questions in Q&A and I will have that tab open. And with that, I will also hand it over to Ritesh. Ritesh, I think we're right on time for this.
It was a great session. So as we wrap up Remember, every wellness journey is unique and AI can guide yours. So thank you for joining us, and special thanks to Shivani for guiding us through this exciting interactive session, I can say, of technology and well-being. Stay tuned for next Wellness Wednesday. Follow us on our social media for updates and highlights. See you in our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.